I still remember the way Daniel looked at Leo that night. Not just a glance, a stare. His eyes widened, his mouth slightly open, like he'd seen a ghost. I frowned, setting down the dish towel I was holding. "What's wrong?" I asked, laughing a little. "You look like you've seen an alien." Daniel didn't answer right away. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said something that sent a chill down my spine. "I just met someone who looks exactly like Leo." My heart skipped a beat. I chuckled, shaking my head. "What do you mean, exactly? You mean like another little boy with brown hair and freckles?" Daniel didn't smile. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his phone, fingers scrolling quickly through his photos. I could see his knuckles turning white as he gripped the device, and suddenly a weird knot formed in my stomach. This wasn't a joke to him. Finally, he stopped. He turned the screen toward me. I reached for the phone, my fingers brushing against his as I took it. My breath hitched the second I saw the image. The room around me seemed to blur, the air thickening, pressing against my chest. My ears rang as I blinked, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. It was Leo. At least, I thought it was. Same wide, bright eyes, same dimpled chin, even the same tiny birthmark under his right eye, one I had traced with my fingers 100 times since he was born. But it wasn't Leo. My grip on the phone tightened. My pulse pounded in my ears. "What? What is this?" I whispered. "Who is this child?" Daniel exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "His name is Adam. His father, Mark, is one of my new clients. We were talking today and he pulled up this picture of his son, Alexa. I swear, I felt like I was looking at Leo." I felt like the ground had just shifted beneath me. My knees felt weak and I sank onto the kitchen stool, still gripping the phone. I studied the image again, searching for differences, some small detail that would prove this was just a bizarre coincidence. But I couldn't find any. "This doesn't make sense," I murmured. "There's no way." Daniel sat across from me, his face pale. That's what I thought. But when I saw that birthmark... "Alexa, what are the odds? It's not just that he looks like Leo. He is Leo, or at least, he could be." A cold shiver ran down my spine. I looked over at Leo, who was sitting on the living room floor, completely oblivious, stacking his toy blocks with a concentrated frown. My sweet boy. The child I had carried, given birth to, held in my arms as a newborn. And yet, a terrifying thought crept into my mind, one I wanted to push away but couldn't. What if... I swallowed hard, barely able to say it. What if he's not ours? The words felt wrong, foreign, like they didn't belong in my mouth. Daniel stiffened. "Don't say that." "But what if it's true? What if there was a mistake at the hospital when he was born?" My voice cracked, my throat tightening. "What if—" "No," Daniel said firmly, shaking his head. "That's impossible. He's our son, Alexa. We know that." "Do we?" I didn't say it out loud, but the doubt was already there, sinking its claws into me, planting its poison. The air in the kitchen felt too thick, too heavy. I forced myself to take a deep breath, my fingers pressing into my temples. "Call him," I said suddenly. Daniel frowned. "Who?" "This Mark guy. Call him. Right now." Daniel hesitated, but I could see it in his eyes. He wanted answers, too. He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen before finally tapping a number. The phone rang once, twice, and then a voice picked up. "Hello?" Mark's voice was calm, casual, completely unaware of the storm he was about to step into. Daniel swallowed, gripping the phone tighter. "Hey, Mark, listen, I need to ask you something. It's about your son." The silence that followed was so thick, so deafening that I swore I could hear my own heartbeat. And just like that, nothing in my world would ever be the same again. Mark's voice came through the speaker, calm and unsuspecting. "Hey, Daniel, what's up?" I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my chest started to ache. I stood frozen in the kitchen, gripping the counter so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind was racing, my heart hammering against my ribs. Daniel cleared his throat. His voice was steady, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers clenched into a fist. Mark, this is going to sound crazy, but I have to ask. That picture of Adam you showed me, was it taken recently? There was a pause on the other end, a second too long. Yeah, Mark finally said, sounding confused. Last week, actually. Why? I swallowed hard, exchanging a glance with Daniel. He hesitated before speaking again, lowering his voice slightly. Listen, I need you to be honest with me. Where was Adam born? A deep chuckle came through the phone. What? Where was he born? Mark repeated. Why are you asking? Daniel exhaled, running a hand through his hair. His eyes flickered to me, uncertain, but I gave him a firm nod. We needed answers. Because, Daniel said carefully, my wife and I just realized that Adam, he looks exactly like our son, Leo. I mean exactly. Silence. My stomach twisted painfully. I could almost hear the wheels turning in Mark's head on the other end of the line. Well, Mark finally said, his tone shifting. Adam was born at St. Mary's Hospital. Why? The floor seemed to vanish beneath me. My pulse roared in my ears. St. Mary's, the same hospital where Leo was born, the same day, the same place. Daniel's face paled. I saw his throat bob as he swallowed hard. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped forward, my voice breaking. Mark, what day was Adam born? There was another pause, too long, too heavy. Then his answer came, and it felt like the world cracked open beneath me. June 14th. I felt sick. I pressed a hand to my stomach, swallowing back the bile rising in my throat. That's Leo's birthday, I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. My head felt light, my legs unsteady. Daniel's grip on the phone tightened. Mark, listen. I think... He exhaled shakily, shaking his head as if trying to process the impossible. I think something's not right. The silence on the other end of the line felt suffocating. Then Mark let out a nervous chuckle, but it was strained, forced. Okay, you guys are freaking me out. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I wiped my damp palms against my jeans, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. We're saying there's a chance our sons were switched at birth. A choked laugh escaped me as I said the words out loud. It sounded ridiculous, like something out of a bad soap opera, but the weight of it pressed against my chest, suffocating me. Mark didn't respond at first. I imagined him sitting in his home, phone pressed against his ear, his heart pounding as fast as mine. Then finally he spoke, and the raw fear in his voice sent chills down my spine. If that's true, he murmured, almost to himself, then who have I been raising all these years? The words hit me like a sledgehammer. A lump formed in my throat, my hands trembling as I clenched them into fists. My mind was screaming 100 different things, each one worse than the last. Had I spent the last 6 years loving a child that wasn't biologically mine? Had Mark been raising our son all along? I glanced over at Leo, oblivious, still playing with his blocks on the floor, humming to himself. My sweet, innocent boy, my baby. No matter what some paperwork or DNA test said, Leo was mine. But still, the questions gnawed at me, sharp and relentless. If this was true, what did we do next? How do you even begin to fix something like this? Daniel's voice pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. Mark, I think we need to meet. Another pause. Then a slow, shaky exhale from the other end. Yeah, I think we do. As Daniel ended the call, a deep, crushing silence settled between us. He turned to me, his expression unreadable, but I could see it in his eyes. Fear, uncertainty, and something else. The same thing I was feeling. The terrifying sense that after tonight, nothing in our lives would ever be the same again. The drive to the park felt like a slow descent into madness. The car was silent save for the occasional sniffle from the back seat where Leo sat, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. My fingers dug into my lap, nails pressing against my skin as I tried to steady my breathing. Daniel was gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Every few minutes his jaw would clench, his nostrils flaring slightly, like he was trying to push away the same suffocating panic that was consuming me. I wanted to say something, anything, to make this feel less real. But what was there to say? I stared out the window as the city lights blurred past, my mind racing. What if we were wrong? What if this was all just some bizarre, heartbreaking coincidence? But deep down, I knew better. The moment I saw that photo, something inside me had shifted, and I wasn't sure if I would ever feel normal again. When we pulled into the parking lot, my stomach twisted into knots. The sight of a dark blue sedan parked just a few spaces away made my breath hitch. Mark was already here. Daniel killed the engine, exhaling sharply as he turned to me. "Are you ready for this?" Number not even a little, but I forced myself to nod. We stepped out and I immediately spotted them, a man and a woman standing near a bench, a small boy standing between them. My throat tightened. Even from a distance I could tell. Adam. He was identical to Leo, down to the way he shifted his weight from one foot to the other, an unconscious habit Leo had since he was a toddler. My heart clenched so painfully I almost couldn't breathe. Mark saw us first. His eyes locked onto Daniel's, and for a moment, neither man moved. Then slowly, Mark reached for his wife's hand, his grip tight like he was anchoring himself. I swallowed hard. Leo tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy? Who are they?" I forced a smile, even though my face felt like it was made of glass, ready to shatter at any moment. "Just some friends, sweetheart." It was a lie. I had no idea who these people were, but I had a sinking feeling they were about to change everything. We walked toward them, the air between us thick with tension. When we finally stood just a few feet apart, the silence was deafening. Mark spoke first. "So, I guess we should officially introduce ourselves." His voice was rough, uncertain. "I'm Mark. This is my wife, Rachel, and this is Adam." Rachel's eyes were wide, flickering between Leo and Adam like she couldn't decide which one to look at. I forced myself to speak even though my throat felt tight. "I'm Alexa, this is Daniel, and our son Leo." Leo waved cheerfully. "Hi," Adam mimicked him. "Hi." My breath caught. Their voices, even those were the same. Rachel pressed a shaky hand to her chest. "Oh my God." Mark swallowed hard, his eyes searching Daniel's face like he was still trying to process the impossible. "We need answers." Daniel nodded, jaw tight. "We do." My body felt like it was on autopilot, every movement stiff and forced as we sat down at the bench. Adam and Leo ran to the playground, giggling as they climbed the jungle gym together, like they had known each other their whole lives, and maybe, in some strange way, they had. I watched them, my stomach twisting. "They're just kids," I whispered. "They have no idea what's happening." Rachel let out a shaky breath. "How could this have happened?" Daniel rubbed his temples. "The hospital. That's the only explanation. They must have..." He exhaled sharply. "They must have switched them." The words sounded ridiculous, impossible. But there was no denying what was right in front of us. Mark stared at Adam, his jaw clenched. "So what now?" No one answered, because none of us knew, and for the first time in my life, I realized that no matter how much love I had in my heart, no matter how fiercely I wanted to protect my son, I might not be able to stop what was coming next. Sitting on that bench, watching Leo and Adam laugh together like they had known each other forever, I felt like I was trapped in a dream, one where the world I had built was beginning to crack at the edges. Rachel's fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, her knuckles pale. "We need a DNA test," she said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have to know for sure." The air between us thickened. Daniel nodded stiffly, his face unreadable. "Yeah, that's the next step." My stomach twisted. The next step? As if this was a problem with an easy fix. a solution waiting just around the corner, but I knew better. I swallowed against the lump forming in my throat. And then what? Mark let out a slow, heavy breath, his hands clasped together as he leaned forward. Then, I guess we figure out what the hell we do with this. Rachel turned to me, her eyes glassy. I don't know how to process this. Adam, he's my baby. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I saw it in her face, the same gut-wrenching fear that was eating me alive. And Leo, he's yours. But if they really were switched... I didn't let her finish. I couldn't. Leo is mine, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. I felt Daniel's hand squeeze mine, grounding me, but I wasn't ready to soften. I carried him. I nursed him when he was sick. I stayed up with him when he had nightmares. I taught him how to tie his shoes. He is my son. Rachel flinched and guilt pricked at me, but I wasn't wrong. Still, she straightened her shoulders, steeling herself. And Adam is mine, she said just as fiercely. I felt his first kicks. I held him in the hospital. I kissed every one of his scraped knees. So tell me, Alexa, what does that mean for us? I had no answer. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden streaks across the playground. Leo and Adam sat together at the top of the slide, whispering like old friends. My heart clenched painfully at the sight. Daniel sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Let's do the test first, one step at a time. Rachel nodded, blinking rapidly like she was holding back tears. Okay, one step at a time. Mark exhaled, glancing at his son. No, at Leo. We'll figure this out. We have to. But as I looked at the two boys, so alike in every way, a terrifying thought crawled into my mind. What if we couldn't? What if this was something we could never fix? The ride home was silent, thick with unspoken fears. Leo chattered happily about his new friend, completely unaware of the emotional wreckage sitting in the front seats. When we got home, I tucked Leo into bed, brushing his hair away from his forehead as he blinked sleepily up at me. Mommy? My heart clenched. Yeah, baby. Are we going to see Adam again? The question sent a sharp pang through me. I think so, I said softly. Leo grinned. Good. He's just like me. It's funny, isn't it? I smiled, though my throat was tight. Yeah, sweetheart, it is. He yawned, snuggling into his blankets. Night, Mommy. I kissed his forehead, lingering there for a moment, breathing him in. Good night, my love. As I shut his door, my whole body felt heavy, as if the weight of this nightmare was pressing down on me. Daniel was already in bed, staring at the ceiling. This changes everything, doesn't it? I slid under the covers, curling into myself. Yeah, he turned to face me, voice low. What if the test proves it? What if Leo isn't... I shut my eyes, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Daniel. And for the first time since becoming a mother, I realized there were no answers, only fear, and a truth I wasn't ready to face. The day of the DNA test felt unreal, like I was living someone else's life. I woke up with a pit in my stomach, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on my chest. The world outside our bedroom window was calm. Birds chirped, cars hummed down the street. But inside me, everything was chaos. Daniel was already up, sitting at the edge of the bed, rubbing his temples. His back was tense, his breathing slow and controlled, his way of managing stress. He turned when he heard me stir. You sleep at all? He asked. I shook my head. Not really. Neither of us needed to say why. The drive to the testing facility was eerily quiet. Even Leo, usually full of chatter, sat in the back seat, humming softly to himself, playing with the tiny action figure he insisted on bringing. He had no idea his whole world could be turned upside down by the time we got the results. Mark and Rachel were already there when we arrived. Rachel looked exhausted, her dark circles pronounced, her lips pursed as she rubbed Adam's back absent-mindedly. Mark gave Daniel a small nod, his usual confidence replaced by something far more fragile. No one knew how to greet each other, because how do you greet people who might have been raising your child all this time? The waiting room smelled like disinfectant, too clean, too clinical. The receptionist's voice was chirpy and distant as we filled out paperwork, the pen trembling slightly in my grasp as I signed my name. Then came the test itself. Swabs, sterile, impersonal. Leo giggled when the technician swiped the inside of his cheek, unaware of how much was riding on that tiny sample. It was over in minutes, but the weight of it stretched endlessly. Rachel gripped her purse tightly as she stood. How long? 3 to 5 business days, the technician answered, offering a small smile like that made it easier. It didn't. The walk back to the car felt heavier than the one going in. When we buckled Leo into his car seat, he looked up at me with a smile, completely unaware of the war raging inside me. Can we go to the park after this? I forced a smile. Maybe later, baby. He beamed, content with that answer. Meanwhile, my stomach twisted. Daniel exhaled sharply once we were back in the car. 3 to 5 days. He murmured, gripping the steering wheel. How the hell are we supposed to get through 3 to 5 days? I stared out the window, my reflection pale and unfamiliar. I don't know. But the truth was, I already felt like I was losing him. The days crawled by in an unbearable haze. I went through the motions, cooking, cleaning, helping Leo with his puzzles, but my mind was constantly elsewhere. Every time he called me mommy, my heart clenched. What if that word didn't belong to me? Daniel wasn't handling it much better. I'd catch him watching Leo with a strange look, his hand tightening around his coffee mug, his throat bobbing as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't. Mark and Rachel texted once, asking if we'd heard anything. I stared at my phone for a long time before replying with a simple, "Not yet." What else was there to say? Then, on the 4th day, my phone buzzed. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, my fingers ice cold, my breath lodged somewhere between my ribs. The sender, DNA testing center. For a moment I couldn't move. Then Daniel's voice, urgent. "Alexa?" I swallowed hard, my fingers trembling as I unlocked the phone and clicked the email. The words blurred together, my pulse pounding so hard I thought I might faint. But then I saw it. The result. And my entire world shattered. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. The email was open, but the words blurred together, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, loud, deafening. Daniel's voice was distant, like he was speaking from another world. "Alexa." What does it say? I couldn't answer. I couldn't even breathe. He reached over, gently taking the phone from my fingers. His eyes darted over the screen, his breath catching in his throat. Then, silence. The kind of silence that stretches, suffocates. I searched his face, desperate, terrified. His lips parted, but no words came. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard, his grip tightening around the phone. I felt my own breath shudder. "Daniel, say something." His voice was barely above a whisper. "It's true." The world tilted. My stomach lurched, my hands grasping at nothing. "No." Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, like he wanted to erase the truth written on that screen. "Alexa, Leo isn't our biological son." My knees gave out. The only thing keeping me from collapsing was the edge of the kitchen counter digging into my back. Number, number, number. I gasped for air, but it wasn't enough. The room spun, my vision darkening at the edges. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't happening. But the proof was right there, cold and clinical, reducing 6 years of love, memories, and moments into a cruel statistic. Daniel's voice was hoarse, strained. "Adam is ours." I squeezed my eyes shut, but that only made it worse. I could see Leo's face in my mind, his bright smile, the way he giggled when I tickled his sides, the way he clung to me after a bad dream, trusting me, loving me. How could a single sheet of paper tell me he wasn't mine? Daniel reached for me, his hands gripping my shoulders. Breathe, Alexa. Please. I didn't even realize I was gasping, chest heaving like I was drowning. Maybe I was. I forced myself to inhale, but each breath felt like it carried shards of glass. Daniel pulled me into his arms, and I buried my face in his chest, gripping his shirt like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. A single thought echoed through my mind, over and over. What now? Daniel ran a hand down my back, his voice barely steady. We should call Mark and Rachel. I pulled away, my eyes burning. And say what? That we made a mistake raising the wrong kids? That we're supposed to trade them like misplaced luggage? The words felt vile on my tongue. Daniel's jaw tensed, his grip tightening. I don't know, Alexa, but we can't pretend we don't know. I wiped at my face with shaking hands. Leo is my son. I don't care what that test says. Daniel sighed, his expression filled with the same pain I felt. I know, I feel the same way. I shook my head. Then why does this feel like we're about to lose him? Daniel didn't have an answer. Neither did I. I sat there, staring at the phone, the truth burning into my mind like a scar. We had proof now. The one thing we thought would give us clarity had only shattered our world even more. Somewhere in another house, Rachel and Mark were reading the same email, feeling the same gut-wrenching realization crash over them. And I wondered if Rachel was holding Adam the same way I wanted to hold Leo right now. I pressed a hand over my mouth, swallowing a sob. Everything had changed, and I wasn't ready for what came next. If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you fight to keep the child you raised, or would you try to build a relationship with your biological son? Let me know in the comments. I need to hear your thoughts.